Welcome to the Deep Dive Books channel, where we hope you find something valuable every day.
Today, we begin discussing a book, published on October 1, 2024. Malcolm Gladwell's Revenge of the Tipping Point, Overstories, Superspreaders, and the Rise of Social Engineering. Malcolm Gladwell is no stranger to our channel. As a science writer striving to turn social science research into bestsellers, I regard Gladwell as a pioneer in this field. Gladwell writes real stories, with a novelistic approach, but his goal isn't storytelling. It's to deliver insights, specifically new ideas from social science. He excels at packaging academic concepts, to make them accessible to the general public. Terms like the 10,000-hour rule, the tipping point, all originate from his books. We've referenced his work many times on our channel, even dedicating a video to his book, Talking to Strangers. What we should know about the people we don't know. Revenge of the Tipping Point is the sequel to Gladwell's 2000 book, The Tipping Point. His debut book became not only a bestseller, but possibly one of the most cited books in social sciences. Nowadays, we often hear phrases like "it went viral" or "a hidden hand behind the scenes," concepts that feel natural in the internet era. However, back in 2000, Gladwell's choice of topic was groundbreaking. So much so that even President Bill Clinton mentioned the book. Now, over 2 decades later, we'll explore what new perspectives Gladwell brings to this familiar topic. The term tipping point originally comes from academic jargon, within complexity theory, a subject we recently covered on our channel. It refers to the point where a system crosses a threshold and undergoes a sudden transformation. For instance, when something obscure becomes a popular trend. How does this happen? In The Tipping Point, Gladwell identified key individuals as the primary force. He argued that trends are ignited by these pivotal figures. Key individuals act as hubs in social networks. You've likely heard of the 6 degrees of separation theory, which suggests any 2 people in the world are connected through 6 intermediaries. These connections exist because of these hubs. For example, I know a professor who knows the head of a major TV network. That head knows the Prime Minister, who in turn knows President Biden. If you know me, you're just 4 steps away from Biden. If you ever need to pass him a note, I might be able to help. The same applies to any ordinary American. Only 6 connections away. These short chains exist not because of me or Biden's security guard, but because of Biden himself. He connects with many people. Gladwell posited that to ignite trends, you need these key individuals to leverage their influence. This theory feels intuitive, but it faced criticism. In 2011, Duncan J. Watts, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, challenged it in his book, Everything is Obvious, Once You Know the Answer. He conducted experiments showing that many trends don't rely on key individuals. Sometimes, a viral video gains traction because a major influencer shares it. But Watts discovered that influencers often lack consistent impact. What works once may fail the next time. Meanwhile, some trends emerge without any involvement from influencers. For instance, a recent viral children's song gained massive attention, without any apparent hidden hand driving it. In reality, some trends are purely driven by luck. When artists with similar talent levels launch songs, slight differences in initial exposure can snowball due to positive feedback loops. Sometimes, people simply develop a quirky affection for something. The real world isn't as dystopian as Harari fears, where algorithms supposedly manipulate public opinion at will. Gladwell, however, isn't fond of this luck-based explanation. This likely explains why Gladwell's new book is titled, Revenge of the Tipping Point. The word revenge can broadly refer to a counterattack, the return of a force, or the revival of an idea or concept. For instance, there was a popular math book titled, Archimedes' Revenge, 1988, by Paul Hoffman, which captures the latter meaning. The Revenge of the Tipping Point stems from Gladwell's evolving understanding over the past 2 decades. While he maintains his key individuals theory, this time he focuses more on the deeper causes behind events. It's akin to conducting forensic investigations into a crime. You must understand the criminal, grasp the motives, and piece together the chain of events. In essence, Gladwell believes that tipping points have underlying causes. This perspective can be framed as follows. Small matters may be dictated by chance, but events that significantly impact society are likely far from random. For instance, if a company hires a singer for its annual gala, whether singer A or singer B gets chosen doesn't affect history, and says little about the company. However, Gladwell is more interested in trends that wield profound societal influence and reveal broader insights. Such questions were challenging for earlier scholars to answer, because it was nearly impossible to track the trajectory of a trend comprehensively. However, with the advent of data, social sciences have become highly quantitative, making it easier to uncover hidden patterns. And these patterns are often unexpected. Let's start with a story about bank robberies. In China, bank robberies are extremely rare, but in the US, they hold an almost exalted status in the criminal world. Hollywood movies have turned them into an art form. Gladwell points out that bank robbery cases don't occur randomly or evenly over time. They follow their own trends. After World War II, likely due to enhanced security measures, bank robberies became rare in the US to the point where they seemed outdated. However, starting in the 1970s, as banks proliferated, and small branches with less stringent security measures emerged, bank robbery made a comeback as a trend. Robbing a bank required minimal preparation. Simply walk in with a gun, demand money, take it, and leave. The take wasn't usually substantial, as small branches didn't hold much cash. The police were notably inefficient, and bank employees weren't willing to risk their lives over money. Thus, for robbers, it was a relatively worthwhile endeavor. Over time, some robbers began targeting larger institutions. One infamous duo, the Western Hills Bandits, once stole $437,000 from Wells Fargo, inspiring envy among their peers. Analyzing these cases reveals some clear patterns. 1. Repeat offenders. Many robberies were carried out by repeat offenders. Wells Fargo was the Western Hills Bandits' fifth target. A man known as the Yankee Bandit committed 72 robberies solo. Another duo, nicknamed Casper and Sea-Dog, robbed banks 175 times in total. Particularly noteworthy was this latter pair, who commercialized bank robbery. Casper realized that entering the bank was the riskiest part of the operation. To mitigate this, they hired others, often street youths or even 14 or 15-year-old high school students, to perform this task during their lunch breaks. The duo would prepare a stolen getaway car in advance, sometimes a school bus or postal van, whisk the kids away to a safe location, distribute some of the money, and send them back to class. 2. A viral spread. Bank robbery followed a viral pattern of imitation. Early successes inspired the Yankee Bandit, who systematized his approach. His exploits then motivated the Western Hills Bandits, who, in turn, became role models for Casper and Sea-Dog. This cycle of influence persisted, with each generation of robbers building on the previous one. This aligns perfectly with Gladwell's key individuals theory. A small group of people are always stirring things up. In fact, when police finally arrested Casper and Sea-Dog, the number of robberies in Los Angeles dropped by 30% that year. 3. Regional concentration. Bank robbery was particularly rampant in Los Angeles. While New York had a famous robber, who reportedly stole $20 million throughout his career, wrote a memoir, and inspired a movie, no one in New York emulated him. At its peak in 1991, a quarter of all U.S. bank robberies occurred in Los Angeles. Clearly, creating a trend requires not only key individuals, but also key regions. Another example. Medicare fraud. Consider Medicare fraud in the U.S. Medicare, run by the federal government, provides nearly free healthcare for Americans, aged 65 and older, covering hospital stays and nursing care. It's an excellent benefit, but also a massive expense, costing over $900 billion annually. Since patients don't pay out of pocket, they're indifferent to costs, while hospitals profit directly. This creates fertile ground for overspending and exaggerated treatments. You might assume that, since it's a government-funded program, it can only be used in public or rigorously audited hospitals. However, Medicare's convenience allows private hospitals to qualify as long as they meet basic requirements. This trust-based system works well in a high-trust society, but in the U.S. with its challenges of social trust, an estimated $100 billion of the $900 billion spent annually is lost to fraud. Yet not every region engages in fraud. The epicenter of Medicare fraud is Miami, Florida. In Miami, Medicare fraud reached astonishing levels. Fraudsters set up fake hospitals, complete with rented buildings, rooms adorned with medical posters, and computers and telephones that didn't even need to function. Elderly individuals were recruited from the streets and offered small payments to receive treatment at these facilities. Medicare stipulates that, as long as a patient stays in a qualified hospital for 3 days, they are eligible to receive 100 days of care in a community nursing facility, with all expenses covered by Medicare. This creates an opportunity for seamless collaboration with nursing facilities. Patients stay 3 days in the hospital, then spend 100 days in the nursing facility, and upon discharge, Medicare provides them with a wheelchair. After some time at home, the cycle can restart with another hospital stay. By the way, while a wheelchair typically costs $200, $300 in other states, in Miami, it costs $1,200. Had such practices been widespread, Medicare would have gone bankrupt. So why was Miami so bold? Local factors, shaped by 3 events in 1980, played a role. 1. The U.S. drug trade shifted from marijuana to Latin American cocaine, flooding Miami with drug money, and corrupting the judicial system. 2. A police killing of a black man triggered a large-scale racial riot, prompting white residents to flee the city. 3. Castro's opening of Cuban borders led to a massive influx of Cuban immigrants. Miami transformed from a quiet town to a bustling metropolis, and a hub for money laundering, corruption, and fraud. We often refer to such regional characteristics as culture or social norms, but Gladwell uses a unique term: overstory. This term originates from forestry, describing the uppermost canopy of trees in a forest. Here, it serves as a metaphor, suggesting an overarching narrative or hidden force. The overstory shapes the conditions beneath it, just as the canopy influences light, temperature, and humidity in the forest, affecting the ecosystem below. Similarly, these overstories are deeper societal environments that subtly guide human behavior. Each region has its own unique overstory, explaining why significant differences exist between areas. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.